And welcome, everybody. This is the third in our continuing series of interviews with our field implementing partners around the world. And today we're particularly privileged to have Rudy Putra join us. Rudy has dedicated his life to protecting the Leusur ecosystem in his own homeland Aceh on the island of Sumatra in Indonesia. Rudy joined the Rhino Protection Program in Leusur in the year 2000 after leaving university. And he rapidly rose up to become the conservation manager for the government department tasked with managing Leusur. Following the tragic civil war in the country and the catastrophic tsunami of 2004, and the dissolving of the government conservation department, Rudy created a nonprofit organization, FKL, in order to continue this vital work. Starting with 2 wildlife protection units in 2012, he grew these to 34 operating in Leusur today. In 2014, Rudy won the Goldman Environmental Prize, the highest prize in all of conservation, the equivalent of conservation's Nobel. Over the past 5 years, Rudy has twice applied successfully to Rainforest Trust for funding to purchase and protect a critical river valley, the Kluit in Leusur. And many of you have generously supported that work. And I'm happy to say that in both stages of the project, the work went way ahead of schedule. And in fact, Rudy was able to purchase for the first of the 2 projects more land than was originally budgeted. We could not be more honored to have Rudy Putra join us today from Leusur National Park. Welcome, Rudy.
Thank you, James. So can I start the presentation?
That would be a pleasure for all of us, I'm sure.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I want to start my presentation about the Leusur ecosystem, one of the beautiful place in our Earth. So first, I have to say thank you for the Rainforest Trust because this support really great for us. I can imagine without the support from the Rainforest Trust, we're very difficult to create the new conservation area in Leusur ecosystem. So this is one of the beautiful place in the world. So this is beautiful forest in Leusur ecosystem, lowland forest, and combined with lowland until to the subalpine. This is not great forest in 20 years ago. This is already logging by the logging company in here. But today we can see this is forest growth very fast in this area. We call this Bengkong area in Leusur ecosystem, where the most highest biodiversity in Leusur ecosystem. Located in the 5 isolated area in the world, in Southeast Asia, Leusur ecosystem quite far from the US or in Europe. So we are in the Sumatra Island in Indonesia. And this is our Leusur ecosystem close to the Kuala Lumpur or Singapore, then to Jakarta. This is only around the 1 hour flight from Medan to Kuala Lumpur, and then 3 more hours by drive to the Leusur ecosystem. So Leusur ecosystem consists of the several types of the forest, including the national park. The part one is that is conservation area named Gunung Leusur National Park in here. And then this is the wildlife reserve, Singkil. This is a peat swamp in here. And the green one is the protected forest, where this is must be protected for the people, for the water management in this area. And the other one is green, the yellow one. This is production forest, where the government allow to logging this area. So, and other interesting part of the Leusur also including the non-forest area in the white color in this area. So this is including like a plantation or community settlement in here. Why Loser is important, and we can see this is a distribution of the biodiversity in Loser. We can see this is national park in here in Papua line. And where the location of the biodiversity hotspot is not only in national park in here, only not so much in national park, but they are dominantly in this area. And also in here, because this is lowland forest in here, in this area. So that's why we say national park not enough for us. So we need more forest in this landscape, and we call this area is the Loser ecosystem. So that's why this is very important for people to protect this ecosystem, because biodiversity is not in the top of mountain in this area, but in the lowland forest. And also important things about water for the communities. So this is one of the very important of the Loser, because only in Loser ecosystem for these species coexist in the one landscape. Sumatran tiger is only around the 600 individual life in the wild, and Loser we estimate around the 200 individual. And orangutan, 99% of the Sumatran orangutan living in Loser ecosystem. So estimate around the 13,000 individual. And how about the elephant? Elephant estimate around only 1,000 individual life in the world, in the Sumatran island. And we estimate in Loser, this is 500 individual. So this is 50% of the world population of the Sumatran elephant live in Loser ecosystem. And the last thing is about the Sumatran rhino. This is one of the rarest species in the world. Only 80 individual left in the world right now. And in Loser, we estimate around more than 60 individual. So this is the last hope for the Sumatran rhino in the world. In the world. And of course, it's about the water, very important for us to protect the Loser because of water. This is source for the more than 4 million people, our people living around the Loser ecosystem and depending the water from the Loser. So that's why this is very important. And we have the problem about the deforestation of us, the many conservation area also have the same problem, deforestation, government construct the road, and then this is about the poaching. We still have the problem about the snare, and this is one of the elephant skeleton killed by the poacher. We can see this is snare still in this skeleton, and this is usually in last 5 years more than 5,000 snare we destroy in Loser ecosystem. So that's why we need to build the whole our system to protect this very important of the ecosystem, and we have to save this. And we decide to develop the system to protection. And for the wildlife, we call wildlife protection team. This is one of the big team managed by the Loser Conservation Forum, our NGO. And we start in 2012, and right now, FKL managed the biggest team in the one landscape in Indonesia, more than 400 staff working in this ecosystem. And we developed a very strong system, including like a restoration, protection, and managing research station, and support the government for the law enforcement operation. And when we start in 2013, this is very limited operation in our team. This is only several locations because not so many staff in that time. But today we cover more than 75% of the Loser ecosystem. Why there is no our team in the middle in this area? because this is very high elevation. It's more than 500, and not so many biodiversity in this area, and very difficult to access. We need to helicopter.
Yeah, I just ask you, so do these red dots represent the location of anti-poaching patrols?
Yes, this is our operation in the Leuser ecosystem, including like law enforcement, anti-poaching, and other activities in all of the Leuser, including in this area. We work with the local communities outside of the Leuser ecosystem to support them to manage and conservation in their village.
Thank you.
So this is about the land acquisition in Leuser. This is the elephant and orangutan distribution in Leuser ecosystem. So our planning to reconnect between this habitat in this area until to the Bengkung area in here. In 20 years ago or more than 30 years ago, the elephant in this area still connected each other. But after the massive of the deforestation in around the early 2000, and there is no connection between this population to this area. So our planning now, how we can connect this population of the elephant and orangutan, and to make them success breeding in the wild again. This is the water sea. This is beautiful valley left in Leuser, and 30 years ago, this is forest. But after 2004, after the fish in Aceh, there is no civil war again in here. Local communities start to encroach in this area. And in 30 years ago, 20 years ago, many elephant living in here, but today very limited individual of the elephant because of the poaching and habitat loss in this area. And we decide this is very important to occupy this valley and to connect between the population in here to the Bengkung area. So support by the Rainforest Trust, finally, we start the program here and occupy the more land from the local communities. And there is no, we're working with the local communities in here and to talk about the conservation with them. And today, when we start the program, 2006 until 2016 and 2017, there is no, we cannot purchase any 1 hectare in this area because we have working together with the local, talk to them. But today, in this month, we success to purchase almost 1,000 hectares in this area. And total, we also occupy almost 3,000 hectares in 5 sites in the Leuser ecosystem, including like a restoration in 10,000 hectares. So the impact for the conservation, we can see this beautiful forest, the forest still grow and then recovery. This is secondary forest as well. And when we purchase that land, that means we can manage this area for the conservation and the forest growth by themselves. This is natural regeneration in this area, and natural regeneration is better than human planting. And another impact is about the snare in closed area. We can see the number of snare decreased significantly in last 5 years. So only 19 snare we collected in last year in 2001. And this is very important. When we protect that good water seed, that means we protect the most important of the population of the Sumatran rhino. And this is only in Leuser ecosystem, in the west of the Leuser. we still find the rhino breeding very success in the world. This is only one place in our Earth where this modern rhino still living and breeding very well. And we estimate around 3 or 4 babies every year born in the west of the Leuser, close to the crude watershed. And the next program, because Leuser is not only crude, and in another part, we still have the problem with the elephant kill or elephant conflict and expansion of the palm oil and the deforestation. So that's why we decide for the next plan, we have to occupy more land, working together to get the permit to manage around 250,000 hectares, beautiful forests in Leuser ecosystem, including for the ecosystem restoration concession. So we will manage around almost 200,000 hectare forest in Leuser ecosystem for the ecosystem restoration permit. And I have to say thank you very much to the Rainforest Trust, because without Rainforest Trust support, I cannot imagine we can save this beautiful forest in the crude and also another part in Leuser ecosystem. Thank you, James. Thank you all.
Well, thank you so much, Rudy. It's really inspiring to have a chance to see you directly and directly in the internet from Indonesia, though. And while you're speaking, the sun has come up behind you, and I can see forest trees behind you, and I can hear I've been hearing the dawn chorus of birds. In fact, I was wondering at one point whether there was some squeaking going on in my room, but then I realized it was coming from Leuser. So what a privilege. Thank you. I'm going to ask a few questions, and then we'll turn to questions from the participants here. And the only thing I just want to remind people before we do is that if after this session you haven't had enough of Leuser National Park, and I certainly haven't, one thing we can recommend is the new Netflix program, Our National Parks, narrated by Barack Obama, and I think it's episode 5, is about Leuser National Park and has some wonderful images there. And of course, Rudy's organization helped the teams to get those. So if you're hungry at the end, please continue your experience of Leuser. Rudy, let me start by just asking you a few questions. So imagine you walk out the door behind you into the forest. Tell us a little bit about standing in the middle of the wilderness at Leuser. What do you see? What do you feel? What do you smell? What do you hear?
Oh, forest really beautiful. I love in the forest because usually we're working with the 5 rangers in the deep of forest. That is really nice. In the early morning, this is really beautiful when the sun coming and the birds start to singing. It's really beautiful. And usually we build the camp in the river bank with the sound of water, really beautiful. You can imagine. I don't drink a coffee in the city, but in the forest, I can drink 5 times of the coffee there. It's really beautiful, really inspiring. And in the early morning, usually I wake up and then we start to talking everything with the rangers and with a drink of coffee. And then that's really beautiful. And fresh air, fresh water. And also, this is free for us in Leuser because we're working in this area and free. We never pay anything to protect this, and we only bring our luggage in the morning, and we don't have the money. We don't need the money in the forest because we don't need money. We only need the food and we can fishing in the river, and some vegetable also from the river, from the forest there. So I'm one of the lucky person in the world, I guess, because I can walking in the beautiful forest, beautiful ecosystem.
Thank you. Questions are coming in, and I have some questions myself, but I'd rather ask a few of the ones that are coming in from our guests. And George Ledek asks, to what extent is there ecotourism at Loser? Would you like to see it develop more, such as in Tamanagara or Danam Valley in Malaysia?
Ecotourism, that is the good, but and we support of the some ecotourism in Loser, but for this is only in limited or in the boundary of the Loser, that's fine. But in the deep of forest, we have to very carefully. We can develop the ecotourism, but only for the special, like a limited tourism there. Some of our visitor, our guys, that is join with us in the patrol. That is good, because they can support our patrol team, and then but not so many people. That's problem when we build a massive ecotourism in the forest, that usually like a rubbish and so many ecosystem disturbance from the visitor. So we have to design well where the location good for the ecotourism and where the area must be wild, because like an elephant or the other animal active in the night, so they don't like a light. That's why we decide in the some area must be protected by the wild.
Wonderful, thank you. Here's a question from Eleanor Kinney, who asks about support from conservation work from local communities. And of course, the background is that Eleanor knows is that many people today strongly believe that conservation cannot be effective over the long term without the full support of the communities who live in and around the protected areas and have lived there for millennia. Eleanor writes that she lived as a child in Indonesia, and she's so inspired by your work. How lovely. And she wants to know whether the work has begun to grow support in the local communities in and around Loser.
Yes, support from the local communities is very important. And 99% of our worker in Loser ecosystem from the local. So this is very important support for us as well. And as we know, my problem right now for the conservation is not only from the palm oil or the logging company, but also from the local. We have evidence, many evidence, when we working with them, like in Klut area, we working together with the local communities, and then they will support us 100% for the conservation in this area. So we developed the system for their livelihoods. In one district in Aceh, we working for the district level, and we want our target 100% of the product and district must be from the sustainable production. And in another area, we're working with the local communities to restore the forest. And what the impact? This is because the program with the local communities. And what impact after 2 years of the program, there is no more illegal activities in that forest, because all of the people support us and working together in that area, and they protect that forest. So this is one of the meaningful program for us, and we can talk to others. If you want to protect the forest for the conservation, you have to develop a local community's livelihood there. Even though we don't have the money, but we can connect to other part, like the government. or another NGO or the social NGO can working together in that area for the local communities. And after that, 100% they will support conservation.
Thank you. Thank you. Our supporter, Darcy Hitchcock, is wondering, well, first of all, she says, so wonderful to hear about your work. And she says, just curious how you make sure that your people in the forest don't disrupt the animals you're intending to protect. The map with all the red dots looks like your people were all over. So how do you avoid disrupting the lives of the animals that you're there to protect, or isn't that a big issue?
Yeah, we only use the very small light, and then until like a 10 p.m. at night, and then there is nothing until we wake up in the early morning. So there is no light, but sometimes the animal visit our camp, like deer or tigers, and deer also like they try to eat like some of soil from around our camp, and we can take a picture of them with many pictures. So many times, sometimes they want to know what we do in our camp, and they visit to look at and then run. So this is funny time for us, but not like a big camp or the only small camp for the 5 person. And in our experience, in my experience, for the 22 years in Leuser, only one case, the wild elephant attacked our ranger. But this is not like something like any. I believe this is not by the elephant, by design by the elephant, because maybe some like a suddenly meet and then the elephant try to run. But in the front of this elephant, that is our ranger. So this is only one case in our experience. The wildlife attack our ranger, and we don't have the problem with the tiger, even though tiger with so many conflict in Leuser, no, but our ranger never attacked by the tiger.
Wow. I can still hear birds behind you. Do you want to, are there any particular bird songs that we can hear through your window that you can name the species for us?
I don't see we cannot see the bird, but seem like a many birds, like a songbird in our office, not close to the forest, but close to the river in Banda Aceh city here. But still many birds in here, so we can hear.
So George Ledeck has a question about songbirds. He asked whether songbird trapping for the caged bird trade is a significant problem in Leuser as it is in Java, and if so, what is your team doing about it?
Yes, we developed this team focused for the wildlife trafficking, and last night our team just started the operation to arrest the poacher, wildlife trader. So bird is under threat now, especially with the horned-bill hornbill. So many kill of this bird for the illegal trade to Vietnam and China. And so we arrest many people. So this is not us, but we support the government institution and the local police in here. We investigation and then share the data to the government, to the police, and then the police working for the law enforcement. Yes, the number of the illegal trader for the bird song, this is really high right now. And one aspect, because of the open market, and unfortunately, this is not only from the Aceh to sell to other area, but also some bird from the East Indonesia came to Aceh, or from the Thailand also, or in Malaysia. This international trader know for the birds, and so that's why we developed this team, and less of the poaching in the forest right now. In last 5 years, usually in 2016 and still around or 2017, this is we destroy or destroy, collect more than 1,000 snare every year. But in last 3 years, the number of snare, the number of poacher also decreased. And last year, this is only around the 200 snare in all of the Leuser ecosystem. So this is one of the success. But because of bird, easy to find and fly to many places, including close to the village, and easy for the poacher to arrest them.
There's a follow-up question related to that from our supporter, Luan Lemmer. And she asked, when you arrest the poachers, does the government punish them? And I'm just going to add a little gloss on that question, a little addition to that question, which is, do you focus only on the actual poachers, the people, the relatively poor people who go into the forest to do the poaching, or do you also focus on the higher level traffickers, the kingpins who actually make the real money off of this? And what sort of punishments do they get, both the local people involved in poaching and the higher level kingpins?
That's both. We're working for this both side, one for the local poacher and one for the illegal big traders, international traders as well. And for the big trader, we're working also with the court and also with the police in here until the punishment. So in history, one or many cases in Leuser, we got the maximum penalties by the big poacher. But for the local, we have the program how we can recruit X of the poacher working as our ranger. And so our ranger consists of the poacher, illegal logger, or encroachment, and but we work with them and try to introduce them about the conservation until they realize that conservation have to do in their area. And so, and also one of the part of our ranger, ex-combatant from the Aceh military. So they are strong person, and right now working with us as the ranger. So this is good for us because we combine between all the powerful person working in the forest. So when one of the ranger, the poacher working with us, and they know everywhere in Leuser, this is good for us because they can introduce this area watched by the someone or other. So we can protect and design the protection in this area. So for the local, we always working in this system, even though not all of them working with us, but in many cases, we visit their village and their home and talk with them about the conservation, how we can protect this area, how important, and support them for their livelihood. And this is solved so many problems in Leuser. And but also we have the problem with the poacher from the another part of the Sumatra. They visit to Leuser, so that's why for this poacher usually we arrest and until to the court.
I'm just going to pick up with a question of my own that comes from the same direction, which is the concern about the relationship between the park and people. Before the park was created, were there people living and hunting in the park? And what happened to those people and to their previous access? when the park was created and today?
So we still allow the local communities to enter to the forest, but not for the poaching. In our forest, still many like rattan or the non-forest timber product, including honey. So they can still harvest and working with us to sell this market. So every year we support the local communities for the more than 2 tons of the honey, local honey, wild honey, and we marketing to another city in Indonesia. And this is very good impact for the local communities because they're still living there and they have the good economic source from the non-forest timber product. And another area in Leuser ecosystem where the area is already destroyed by the palm oil or another activity, support the local communities to planting that area. We call it community restoration. So so many of the kind of the trees in Leuser in Indonesia for their livelihood, like a banana or the durian. One of the popular fruit in Indonesia is durian, and with jengkol and petai and sugar palm and others. So this is good economic for them, and they protect the forest. So forest not mean restriction for the local, but forest can support them for their livelihood.
Thank you. Thank you. Quite a few other really interesting questions here from our participants today. Andrew Maloney asks whether there may be opportunities to volunteer in Leuser.
Yes, we're working with many volunteers every year in Leuser, and they can stay in our famous research station in the deep of forest. And so we're working with the researcher there and student, and of course, volunteer is very important for us because they have knowledge and they can share to us and develop. Because we are the local NGO in Aceh, we don't have the enough capacity like our social media as well. So if any volunteer working with us, that's really helpful for us, and we're happy to accommodate.
And if John
of course
is curious, who should he contact? Is there a form on the website?
Yes, to the website or the social media, our social media at the Leuser Conservation Forum, and or our Facebook, and or everyone can email me.
Very good. John, if you have trouble reaching, just ask us and we'll connect you. Other questions here. An interesting science question from Alexandra Ellen Apple. Excuse my pronunciation if it's incorrect. Who says, I am so grateful for your Rudy and the love you share. Very nice. And then asks, warming planet science suggests that Southeast Asia will be severely impacted by the rise in temperatures. Is anyone looking at this science?
Yes, we can see right now, every month, our team in the forest collecting the data of the tree. We call it spenology, to identify every tree in our transect. And his experience more than 35 years in the forest. He said, we call him Ibrahim. We call this Professor Ibrahim. He never get a university. He's only basic school in Aceh, but he's the botanist. And he said, the fruit from the forest now is smaller than 30 years ago. This might be impact of the climate change. And because of the increasing the temperature, in many places in Leuser also not very cold, no? It's, for us, it's sometimes in the morning still cold, but in last many years, we can see the temperature higher, and that is not cold for us as well. And so many impact from the climate change for the forests. And so we have to very carefully, because we believe many species cannot live in the higher temperature as well. But we don't have any specific research, because for us, research that is next level for because this is very our strategy right now to cover the Leuser ecosystem from the protection, and we happy if any researcher working in Leuser to identify this problem for the ecosystem.
I mean, I would just add, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rudy, that Leuser is by far the largest intact wild ecosystem in Sumatra, and one of the largest intact wild ecosystems in Indonesia, or indeed in all of Southeast Asia. And of course, you also have a very significant altitudinal gradient going all the way from sea level up to, is it 10,000 feet at the top of the mountains?
Around the 7,000 feet from the sea level.
7,000 feet or meters? Feet?
3,400 meters.
Oh, 3,400 meters, so about 10,000.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10,000.
About 10,000 feet. And so the altitudinal gradient and the size of the ecosystem, those two things combined should give you some degree of resilience to climate change compared to smaller and more fragmented landscapes. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Other questions? Frank Smith, staying on a science side, says he's very impressed by the specificity of the animal numbers that you cite in the forest and do you have staff dedicated to wildlife monitoring and wildlife counting?
Yes, we have the 2 research stations and around the 50 staff working for the research station, and for the monitoring of the species. So we collect the data from the camera trap or the direct counting. We put the collar, GPS collar for each group of the elephant, and we can easy to identify how many individual in the group of the elephant. So every year we collecting the data and share the trend of the individual. And we have the more than 2,000 camera trap installed in the field, in the forest, and we collect thousands of data every month from the camera trap as well, and we can see the trend of the population of the wildlife. And in the last few years, that is the impact of the conservation, protection. The number of the tigers, one of the species that's infected for the conservation now, and they increase significantly in Leuser. And negative impact for this species is increasing the wildlife conflict with the local communities. So this is problem for us, but we have to say this is very happy because no extinction for the tiger. And last year we rescue 4 of the tiger who make the conflict with the local, and we rescue, we capture, and then we release back to the forest. So hard work, but we always happy because this indication of the breeding well in the wild. And we also collecting the data about the fish in every our station, and we measure of how big of the fish and number of the species in that river. And we also working with the university, local university in here, to collecting the data about the butterflies or the insect or other species.
Thank you. John Hartman has a question. He asks whether you have significant threats from invasive species, and if so, are you able to address that?
I don't see the invasive species in the many area of the user, but we find the problem from the eggs of the logging company operate in the user. In the some of the riverbank, we can see that is one species like a bit dominant and kill some of the native trees in the forest. But this is not in the deep area. This only in the riverbank I see. And so we try to make like experiment, and we counting the where area we have to clearing this area, and we can see the impact of the invasive species. For the animal, we don't see I never see any of the invasive species from the animal to the user. One of the I love to talk about this in area where the eggs of the palm oil company operate in the deep of the forest in Leuser. In 2009, we all of the palm oil we censoring, we remove from that area, and without any intervention, we can see what the difference of the forest every year. And last year, in 2001, we found 120 species of the tree in that area. So there is no one of the species that is dominantly in that area, like invasive. And we identified around the 65 of the bird come back, and around the 21 species of the mammal also come back in this area, including the tiger and sun bear and elephant. And so even though there is no intervention, we don't have the problem with the invasive species in that area. So this is one amazing of the Leuser. In another park in Sumatra, when the forest without any species of the like including like a rhino, this is one of the species will dominantly in that area. This for the plant, but I've never seen in Leuser.
Interesting. So it's a resilient ecosystem.
Yeah.
Luan Lemmer, who asked the question previously about the punishment of traffickers and poachers, has asked if we could look back at the PowerPoint presentation and look at the last map that included the small red bands colored in, and she wanted to look at that and understand more what those bands were. So if we can pull the PowerPoint presentation back up on the last map that you showed. Great. Okay.
Sorry. This one.
I don't know about others. I'm not seeing maps. I'm seeing, oh, here we go.
Oh, sorry.
I think you have to go forward so that you can see the future plans. Yeah.
Yes.
One more step forward. There we go. Perfect. So this is great. Tell us a little bit. So the purple represents the national park.
Yes, the purple one.
And then the green represents conservation forest that's less well protected than a national park, but still has some level of protection. Is that correct?
Yes, this is the national park. Purple one is national park.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the lesser ecosystem boundary. The
green boundary is
green
the
line.
boundary of the ecosystem. Yeah. I see. No,
yeah.
Absolutely. And then the areas in red with hashing, what are those?
So this is our plan to land acquisition, or we request to government to manage this area as the ecosystem restoration concession. So in the yellow area, and then with the red, the area we will manage as the new conservation for the.
So those are areas that right now are in yellow, which means that they are production forest concessions, so people can use them for producing timber or for planting palm oil. But you want to lease those concessions and turn them into ecosystem restoration concessions instead. Is that right? Or purchase them and turn them into conservation areas instead?
Yes, that's correct, Jim.
And the towards the bottom, the long skinny bit that's red, is that the Kluit River, which we've been helping you to purchase over the last few years?
Yes, this is the Kluit River in here that we purchased in last 6 years.
So I think thank you again to those people who are on this call who helped us to support FKL to do that. Fantastic. And then the other areas, especially this very large area of red in the north. Tell us a bit more about that.
So this is the concentration of the elephant node. It's 25% of the world population of the Sumatran elephant in here. But many cases of the invasion of the palm oil or the logging area and kill so many elephants in this area. Usually, until 5 years ago, every year, 10 to 15 elephants kill every year in this area. So that's why we decide this is very important action in this area, and we try to working with the government to delineate this area as the new conservation area under of the restoration ecosystem concession. And we also purchase the land from the local communities in the some area because owned by the local, but many conflict with the elephants and poor communities because they cannot live in that area, honestly. When they start planting, and that elephant make the massive destroy, and they eat everything in this area. So that's why we decide, and we talk to government, we have to conserve this area as the conservation. No more expansion of the palm oil. And we start identify this area as the high conservation value, including some inside of the some plantation. There is 3 or 4 companies, palm oil companies in here, in this area. We call the companies who occupied by the elephant. It's not company occupied the habitat for the elephant, but elephant occupied the companies. So massively destroyed by the elephant in this area. Even though this is not forest, palm oil, and they have the legitimate to operate in this area because they get a permit in 1980s, but they can't operate well, and almost 90% destroyed by the elephant. We decide this area very important for the conservation, and we're working with the local government now. And in this area, we right now develop in this area for the rhino breeding, because some isolated population of the Sumatran rhino in Leuser, we estimate around the 5 to 10 individual left in the east of Leuser, no breeding indication. And then with the government, central government and local government, we decide we had to capture this isolated rhino and put them in the breeding center. And we hope these facilities will operate in July this year. Still in construction. Yeah.
I was going to say we're almost out of time, but Eleanor Kinney asks maybe not an easy question, but what is your estimate of the cost of purchasing those concessions in the north of the landscape in order to convert them back from palm oil to rainforest and secure the elephant population?
There is two things. For the forest area, the production forest, we only looking for the submitted to the government to get their permit. For the palm oil concession, our plan to working with the donors or another company to take over this company and change as the conservation area. So this is our planning. We know this is very expensive. Estimate around might be $1,000 or $1,000 or the $700 per hectare. So this is so expensive. That's why we need like an investment as well. We're working with the investment company from the Europe, and we can identify maybe this is potential not open this area for the palm oil, but might be potentially for the REDD+ project in the future, but we don't know. We try.
And just for those listeners who aren't familiar, REDD+ means reduced deforestation, carbon payments for reduced deforestation, and in this case, potentially even for reforestation of new, to replace the forest that was there before, I imagine. We are at time. While we have been speaking, the sun has come up and it looks like it's a very beautiful day behind you in Leuser National Park. And while we've been speaking, the sun has been setting here in Virginia. It is such a privilege for all of us from the other side of the world to be able to connect with you on the internet and to be able to do a small part supporting the extraordinary conservation success that you've achieved in one of the most spectacular and important conservation landscapes in the whole world, and in a part of the world where conservation success is not easy at all. So I know that I join all of our guests today in thanking you for taking the time to speak with us, congratulating you on your extraordinary success, and looking forward to hearing more from you, looking forward to further proposals of how we can continue to partner and to help you. It's a privilege to be your partner, Rudy, and thank you. And before I close, I just want to thank everybody else for joining us this evening, for taking time away from your busy lives to jump back into a Zoom screen. We're so lucky to have supporters such as you, and it is a great privilege for us to be a bridge between you and extraordinary conservationists such as Rudy. So thank you all, and have a lovely evening. And Rudy, have a wonderful and productive day today in Leuser. Bye for now.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. And your support is really important for us. And without your support, it might be difficult for us to continue to fight for Leuser.